Welcome to the Bigfoot Society. In this episode, I welcome Carter Buschard to share about his work with habituation sites in Sasquatch research. If you have Bigfoot living on your land or you experience something similar, please reach out to me immediately after this episode. And if you've had an encounter and you'd like to be on the show, you can also contact me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Also, make sure you check out patreon.com/The Bigfoot Society, where you can become a supporting member and get extra episodes every single week. And now, let's get on with the show. All right, Bigfoot Society, got the privilege of talking to Mr. Carter Buschard tonight from the great state of Missouri. He's a Bigfoot researcher down there. But how are we doing tonight, Carter?
We're doing good. I've had a good supper, watered my yard, did all my chores. I'm ready.
Oh, we're good to go. Well, yeah. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to give it right over to you because we were talking a little bit in the pre-show and we've got some interesting stuff to talk about tonight, but go ahead and the floor is all yours, Carter.
All right. Yep. Well, I'm Carter Buschard. I live in Liberty, Missouri, which is just a few miles north of Kansas City, Missouri. So I've been with BFRO for since probably about 14 years, 2012, somewhere in there, 2011, 2012, somewhere in there. I've led 4 expeditions for BFRO. I have led 3 here in Missouri and 1 in Illinois. I've had 100 reports published to BFRO.net. So that's not, that's published. So, I mean, you can go on there if they're still on there. I've probably interviewed 450, 500 people at least to get, but these are all published to BFRO, not just reports I turned in. They were actually published. So, I've been around the block a little bit, and I've seen things and heard things that, people will disagree with, agree with, or ask more questions about. And I'm still learning as I go because, I'm confounded about once a month with something. I go, how did that happen? What was that? You don't know everything. You never do. You never quit knowing everything. I mean, you never quit learning everything. It's a constant thing because we have no body. We have no proof. And I'd love to define that word a little better later on, proof. But anyway, I've got 4 books I've written. The most recent is this one, which is Sasquatch Habituations, and it's all about. I won't say manage. I am privileged to be in contact with 9 families and their properties and the goings on with Sasquatch living on their property. Some are interacting with them much more than others. Some not at all. They're brand new to this. So it's quite interesting. I got into the habituations because it's fascinating. People are living with these beings on their property and seeing them daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, some for a generation, which is 25 years or so. And so hearing the day-to-day things, and I've been to probably half of their properties, and I've sat on the porch with some of these people and shared their Sasquatch adventures, including having my name called back to me in my own voice and have their voices called back to them in their own voice by the Sasquatch. So it's fascinating. It's just a fascinating thing, and I'm very privileged to walked in kind of the back door on some of this, because when I started doing my reports for BFRO, it's kind of funny how it started. But the people would tell me, what they originally called about. I saw a Sasquatch. Me and my wife were driving through the forest. We saw a Sasquatch across the road. 50% of all Sasquatch reports, or close to that number, 50%, are just road crossings. You see it, you're driving down the highway, you see it runs across, it goes behind your car, and you see it in the rearview mirror. You're watching. I mean, that's half of them, because it goes by like that. So, but after I talked to these people and got conversational with them, started asking, how many kids you got? I mean, what do you do for a living? What do you do for grant? I mean, I talk to them because I actually want to know what makes them tick, And so after we talked about the initial sighting, many of these people would go, now, can I tell you something that's just really bizarre and off the wall? I'm going, okay, you just told me you saw a creature that doesn't exist, and now you want to tell me something that's off the wall? Bring it on, baby. I want to hear what you got to say. And then they would start telling me these fantastical tales. At first, I thought they were fantastical. But I looked right at it and it just disappeared, or it walked into a tree and never came out the other side, or it put visions in my head. I heard a voice in my head, not in my ears, but I heard something talking to you. I'm going, and so those are the real reports that you want to hear. But they were so, the witnesses have been so terrified of ridicule from everybody, their coworkers, their spouse, oh, really? You saw a Sasquatch? Yeah, old Bob said he saw a Sasquatch. Let's have him over to the Christmas party and have some fun with this one, that kind of stuff. Well, that traumatizes people, this is something, it's like seeing a UFO, and, well, the government says there are no UFOs, so I must not have seen that. I must have been a light or swamp gas or whatever they say, I must have been dreaming. So Sasquatch doesn't exist either. So it must have been a guy in a ghillie suit or a bear standing on its hind legs, walking across the, all the stupid excuses that you get, And so I started trying to figure out, well, which is it that they wanted me to tell? What did they want to talk to me about? Did they want to tell me the initial report? Because when you get a BFRO report, it's typed out. And then we all can go log into flats, as they call it, and we can grab the report and start typing away and call the people and get their story and see if it's worth publishing or not. So that's what we do. So anybody can grab the reports, first come, first serve. But then when I started talking to these people, it got me to thinking, and I started looking at some of these reports, and in many of these reports, there was underlying something they were wanting to say, but they weren't saying it for obvious, because of ridicule and scorn. And the people that do that the worst is your spouse, your coworkers, your close family members. The people the best are the ones that will tear into you, because, well, yeah, sure, you're really, and so when they don't believe you, then you shut up. You don't say anything. So that's what's happened until the last 3 or 4 years. When COVID came along, I was trapped at home like everybody else. I had all these reports. I'm going, let me start calling these people and talking to them. And after 5 or 6 conversations, I said, I got to write a book or something, because I got all this stuff, and what are you going to do with it? BFRO would not publish much of the stuff that I get, because it's paranormal, quantum science, quantum physics. And, when you say something disappears, well, you got to have proof. Well, okay. The proof is this person who I know and trust is telling me they saw something. They're starting to cry, or their voice is quivering. This isn't a hoax. This person's not jacking with me. They've got something to say. I had so many, big badass macho hunters. I've been hunting these woods for 30 years. I've seen everything there is here. If there's a Sasquatch or a gorilla out there, I've seen it. I hadn't seen it, so it doesn't exist. Okay, that's good. 2 or 3 months later, I get a call from that same guy. Can we talk? And they've had a sighting, or they already had it when they told me that in the first place, and just didn't want to share it. Well, they started sharing these things. And so I filled up 4 books with this stuff, and it's undeniable. There's things going on that nobody wants to talk about, namely the government and science. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to get involved in this, so they're poo-pooing it all. But these are God-fearing honest people, work 9 to 5, got families, kids, all that stuff, and they live on this, rural or isolated, heavily wooded areas. They're having experiences with these beings, and they're beings, they're not creatures. They're beings. They have intellect. They have a language. And I've heard the language. I've got people describing the language. You've heard of Ron Moorhead's Sierra sounds. Jeremiah, you've heard of that. And so what do you do with that? Now, they believe him, but they don't believe the guy on the street who says he heard one. So what do you do? Who's wrong? Who's full of crap? Is it Ron Moorhead? No. And by the way, Ron was so kind to do commentary on my first book. I've met Ron. He's a nice guy. He's a very intelligent guy, very, very good guy. And so when you have this, then you have to decide, am I just me? Am I meeting only the crazy people in the entire world, the entire United States? Am I only talking to crazy people, liars, hoaxers? Are these real people that are having real experiences, and they are deeply moved and upset by some of it? It's a real thing. And so I just went off on it, and the calls keep coming in. I got one 3 days ago from a guy in Indiana who sent me a bunch of photos that he took. And these things are all over his property. They're terrifying. They were pounding on his door while his wife and newborn baby, or his girlfriend and newborn baby, were sitting in the house. They didn't know what to do. These things are pounding on the outside of the house, at night, and freaking them out. Well, they just want food, or they want to know if you're in there. They're just messing with you. That's one of the things they do. So, people are seeking me out and others, but because I am known for listening and I'm not ridiculing you, and, you tell me your story and we'll try to prove what you saw, or we'll try to disprove it. If we can't disprove it, then your experience, however bizarre, is a real thing. This is what happens when you are dealing with a creature that is smarter than us, been around longer than us, is bigger than us, they're more intimidating than us. The things they can do are just off the charts, and you just have to deal with it. We're told from the day Jeremiah was born, and for the next 18 to 22 years, depending on if you went to college, you're told how the world is. You're told there's no UFOs, there's no ghosts, there's no Sasquatch. The government lied, there are UFOs. So now what are they lying about? And I guarantee you the government knows exactly what's going on with the Sasquatch, just like they know the UFOs. So, so then we have this quandary, what do you do with 18 years of you being told exactly how the world really is, and then you see something that defies that logic? I'll use the term logic very loosely. So what do you do with that when you see it? You're an intelligent person. You have a wife, you got kids, you got a job, you got responsibilities. Whatever you do, you're a card-carrying, upright citizen, and you've seen something you cannot explain that you're told does not exist, but you know it does because you saw it, and you were with 5 other people and they saw it. So now what do you do? So that's the quandary we're in with the Sasquatch. And within the Sasquatch community is the Aper-only crowd or the paranormal quantum crowd. Well, when I first got into this, I was being groomed by the guys here in Missouri that were investigators before me. And they were ape only. And they were pretty rude and hateful about it if you believed otherwise. They were the ones that, yeah, you're dreaming there, Carter. Ain't no such thing as that. No, and so you got to keep quiet. Well, when they got rid of the guy that was grooming me to become an investigator, they fired him from doing the expeditions in Missouri. They fired him. and they hired me. Doesn't mean much. He was screwing things up, and he was very ignorant in his beliefs and not letting people have an open mind and share ideas. And what about this? Because I've heard this and I've seen this, and oh, that's just a bunch of hooey. There's no explanation for it. That's just a bunch of crap, is what he's saying. Well, so the first expedition I led for BFRO in Missouri, 2011, 2012, I think it was 2012. I watched one disappear on a thermal camera. I had about 20 people on this expedition. And so there was about 8 or 9 people with my group. And we sent another group out with another person who said he knew the area. And he was going to make a big circle around this conservation area and come back. We're all going to meet and see and talk about what we saw, heard, and all that. Well, they got lost. And so we were sitting there in radio silence because where we were was down in a holler. We didn't want to move because we could hear them on the radios every now and then, but the radio service was bad because we were down in a holler. And they got lost. So we sat there in absolute silence in the forest, 11 o'clock at night, waiting for them to come down this path. And so I was just scanning with my thermal, not recording to save batteries, which I'll never do again, because when I tell you what I saw, I'll spend $1,000 on batteries after that. So I see this glow coming through the woods. I'm going, thank God. I think they're here, guys. I think they're here, because it was a big glow, and I just thought they were separated, not all walking together. So I saw this glow, and just as I was about to say something, it took one step. It walked right in front of my camera. I was about 60, 75 feet away, I think. And it was a Sasquatch. I was looking at the thermal heat signature, white hot. Arms, legs, head. It was a Sasquatch. It is what it is. And the second it took its second step, it vanished. It just exploded like into this light. It's like a flashbulb went off in my face. And it blinded me for a second because it was that bright. It just disappeared. Like it didn't know we were there. Suddenly we were there. He's in the pitch black. All of a sudden there's 5 or 6 humans sitting in the dark. Moo, hello. Well, it had no idea we were there. So I saw that and I went, oh God. And I was with a couple of the ignorant people. So I was just going, what is it? What is it? Well, no, I thought it was them, but it was something else. I guess it must have been a deer. I just changed the subject because I didn't tell them at the time. I didn't want to start a bunch of crap because it was my expedition. I didn't want you, Joe Loser, to be raining on the parade and telling all these people who come with open minds and just want to know what just happened. So anyway, that was the first time I'd seen one, and it was a heat signature, but it was as obvious as if you were looking at it in broad daylight. You had 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, and completely naked, no clothing. It was a giant Sasquatch. So that day, that night, I was baptized, and I went from being groomed by the ape-only crowd to say, you guys, I ain't listening to you another second, because I'm joining the other team over here, where there's open-minded explanations and discussions as to what they could be, what they can do, rather than just, well, it's just a dumb ape. Anything else you say is just a bunch of crap. So, and I that day was the day I went to the other side, and I haven't been back since. I mean, it changes everything. Your mentality is changed when you see something like that. And it was long as my drive, 60, 75 feet away. I have a really long driveway. So it was the end of my driveway. It was not that far. And it was a good size. And we recreated it the next morning. The guys there was a few guys with me that were believers of the abstract, and we went back and we did decide it was in the 65 to 75 feet away. It was about 8.5 feet tall, and we recreated it where its height was and where it stepped out, and there it was. And so that's how I know that these people had been rejected by everybody and their mother. Many of these people had talked to other researchers, BFRO wise. I knew they were telling the truth. I mean, they weren't just making it up. These people don't know anybody. They don't know each other. The witnesses. There's no money involved. They don't even want their names in there. So they get nothing out of it. All the people I put in my books, I give them a free book. I mean, that's what they get. And they get the joy and pleasure of telling their story to somebody who's not going to laugh at them, and ridicule. So that's kind of where I'm at now with my research. Is I'm monitoring properties. I have open door invitation anytime. If I want to go out there, I just call them, arrange a time, and I'll go sit there and experience what they're experiencing, see what they're seeing, hearing what they're hearing. It's mind-boggling. It's just, when you hear your name called in your very same voice, out of the woods across the road. I mean, I'm sitting here 50 feet away, and these creatures are calling my name back and forth. They didn't hire somebody like the next door neighbors, to come sit in the woods at night and wait till I throw a rock or make a call or something. That's just not happening. That just doesn't happen. If you're willfully going to hoax somebody. So it doesn't happen. So I'm experiencing this stuff. So all of a sudden, these things that have been rejected, these reports, these events that people have just been scoffing at all these years and decades, they're real. I mean, they're seeing and experiencing what they're saying, give or take a few hoaxes. There are known hoaxers in our field, as you know, and I am not one of them, So, I mean, you got any questions for me or statements, or, I mean?
Absolutely. I've got more than a few. So what do you tell a person? They contact you and they say, hey, there's a Bigfoot pounding on my home. How does that conversation go? Like, what do you tell them is your motive to get them to calm down first? Or like, how does that conversation go?
Yeah. Well, I just had it a week ago. I mean,
Yeah.
It just fortuitously, you're the first show since I had this. And I've been trading emails and texts with this guy because he's freaked out. So his girlfriend, fiance, they have like a 6 or 7 month old baby, and they're pounding on the house. And he went out the night before and it took some photos, and I have some photos, and I'm still working on them. But they're in a hurry. But the conversation went, I said, if you want them to stop pounding on the house, coming around, put up some cameras, put up some trail cameras immediately, get you some lighting, so motion lighting. And he had cameras and he had motion lighting. I just haven't put them up, is what he said. Well, this would be a good reason, because they don't like cameras. Now, if they're going to habituate your property, which means they're going to live on or very near and use your property as a place to live with their family, because they have 4 acres, I think, but there's like hundreds and hundreds of acres of wild, heavy timber forest in Indiana, where this was. I won't give you the name of the city. It's, near Indianapolis. But anyway, so I said, you've got a family. They will not hurt you. They are not here to hurt you. If they wanted to hurt you, they would have taken you out a long time ago. The first time you saw one, they would have taken you out then. That's not what they're here for. They're here to help us be better humans, help us to treat the planet better, help us to treat each other better. Don't hunt recklessly. Don't thrill kill hunt where you just go kill a deer and cut its head off to get a rack and leave the body. You don't take it food home to feed your family. They don't like the racism, the way we treat our fellow man. They don't treat their fellow Sasquatch or clan members the way we treat our fellow humans. That being said, there are grumpy, mean, nasty people, just like there's probably some grumpy, mean, nasty Sasquatch. they're not going to come after you, do anything unless you're trying to harm them or their family. If you're shooting guns at them or near them, you're chasing after their kids, yeah, all bets are off. You're putting your life in your own hands. I mean, I would do the same thing, you know. But so that's what I tell them. I say, just put up cameras, get up your motion lights, and make sure they're working, and they will stay away. And then I tell them to talk to them. I don't care if you share our property. Don't come up to our house and scare my family. Don't bang on the walls. Don't look in the windows, because they looked in the windows. He has pictures from inside his living room, outside, and I've got a photo. As evidence goes, it would not pass muster, but it's definitely two eyes, a nose, a mouth, a little distorted, but you can see it. And I've seen pictures like this many, many times. I've been with people when they took these pictures, and I just did not happen to see what they were taking when they took it. But when I look, I could see the movement. I could see there's something, but it's out of focus. Well, they can change their vibrational frequency. So you can look right at them and they suddenly just disappear. And they could be standing right there and haven't gone anywhere. You just can't see them because they changed the vibrational frequency that they operate on and we operate on as humans, you know, in the universe. So they can do that. I've seen it. My people have seen it. The one that disappeared on my thermal, it changed something, because it was gone. It saw us there, and it was not expecting it, and it just, boop, it was gone. So it disappeared at will. You know, I wasn't stoned. I wasn't drunk. My equipment is top of the line flare equipment. My battery, I mean, everything was working fine. So there's no accidental mistaken identity or anything like that. So, you know, that happened. So when someone like that calls me, I tell them, get cameras. And he even texted me during the day while he's at work. Well, what if I'm out shooting guns and stuff? If you're living on acreage, and everybody in rural property, they go out and target practice, you know, and you'll go, you know, shoot at coyotes if they're trying to get on your property and get your dogs or cats or come after the kids or stuff. So, you know, they know intent. They know what you're doing and what you're thinking when you're on your property. They watch you and they learn and they know you. And the reason they watch, because they have families, they have kids. They watch us. They're very, very fascinated, especially with the women and children, because they're, you know, the women are the birth givers, life givers, nurturers, you know, more so than the guys. And so they're fascinated with that. And, you know, and their kids play. They chase bugs. They chase mice. They chase raccoons and possums. We chase the dog or a cat, or we'll go throw a rock at a bird or a squirrel. I mean, you know, they do stupid, silly stuff. So does our kids. I mean, they have families. They live. They got to eat. They got to have shelter. I mean, there's a lot of similarities up to the point of appearance, clothing, and, you know, working. You know, they don't do any of that. So, but that's generally what I would tell anybody that's having a problem with them right off the bat. And this first time, a week ago was the first time he discovered, he didn't know anything about them. He had heard of them. He was aware that people say they exist. Never had an event ever until a week ago when they moved onto this property. And the house had been vacant for 6-7 months. I've had many, many reports like that. And what it is the Sasquatch were here long before we were. They were on the planet before we were. And they came first. And when that house sits vacant for 6, 7, 8 months, they come and go as they please. In the house, out of the house. If it's locked up and they don't break in, they'll just walk around it and, you know, sleep in the backyard. They'll look in they look in the house and, hey, what's in there? What are the humans doing? What do they do? What do they sit on? What is that called? A sofa? Oh, a sofa. You know, they're curious. So, but then somebody moves in the house. Well, they were there first. Well, too bad. I have a piece of paper that says I own the house, so go away. So, but they respect that, you know. But they'll be here long after we're gone, individual families or the human race. They'll be here after we are, because we're going to destroy this planet if we don't change things. So, the land is theirs. The property is, they don't have this thing where I own this. I don't work a job and I go to the bank and deposit my check, and here's my check. I'm going to buy this house. I own this piece of property now. They don't live their life like that. That's not something they understand or live by. They all live on the land and they share the land. They eat off the land. We eat off the land. We tear up the land. We destroy it. We pollute it. They don't do that. Only us humans do that.
Right.
So, but that's, to answer that question simply, put up cameras, put up lights, and talk to them. Don't yell and scream, just talk in a calm voice. I love you. I believe in you. I see you. I know you exist. You're not going to hurt me. I'm not going to harm you or try to. I'm not going to shoot guns at or near your family. We're just going to live our life out here. And very often that's it. That's what they do. And there's thousands of families living with these creatures. I have 8 or 9 that I'm monitoring. And so there's 8 or 9 families right there. And they're not all in Missouri. They're in Washington State. They're in Arizona. They're in Arkansas. They're all over. But they're living with these beings and interacting with them to whatever degree they want to with them, or they're just observing and not interacting, because they don't know quite what to do or say. They're still scary. Well, the gorilla bear is about 10, 12 feet tall, weighs about 1,200 pounds. I think he outweighs me by a little bit, so I'm not going to tick him off. So they don't know what to do. So they do very little at first. If I'm lucky enough to be able to talk to them, or they reach out to me through somebody else, and I talk to them, and they go, oh, they're so much more at ease when you just give them some simple pointers, and it's really just logic, common sense. The same way you'd want to get along with the next door neighbors you live next to that you really kind of don't like, but you want to just get along, So it'd be the same thing. Just keep the peace. You don't have to socialize, or don't have to have Thanksgiving dinner with them, but just keep the peace, be respectful. And that's kind of how these habituation situations going on. It's bizarre. It's a bizarre thing, but it is a thing. It's a real thing.
Are there questions that you ask yourself when you're getting involved with a new habituation situation, where it's like you're trying to figure out if this is like a 50 years with Bigfoot or a siege at Ho Nubby, and you're trying to figure out where on the line this particular situation is? Yeah,
and I usually get the answer, whether they give it to me intentionally or not, just by getting a synopsis of the situation that brought them to call me. Because sometimes they'll throw rocks and bounce them off your roof. They'll throw. I've had sticks and little pebbles thrown at me, bouncing off my head and stuff. It's just the little ones just jacking with you. They're playing. They're seeing if you play back with them. It's a simple thing. It's childlike, but it's also an attempted communication. So the ones that are really hostile and angry typically have a reason, because they're not that way. All this stuff you see and read, they're growling and blood and saliva is dripping off their teeth. I'm going to eat your babies when you're asleep. That's just to sell T-shirts and coffee mugs and stuff. I don't have any of that. There's none of that stuff in any of my books, because they're not like that. And if they are, there's probably a reason that they've been shot at, or the dogs, they don't like dogs. So if you've got dogs that run free, if they suddenly start disappearing, well, you might have a culprit. You know who it is. It's the Sasquatch. They don't like dogs. And dogs are very brave and will run into the forest to save their owners and protect their owners. Then you hear this, and then silence, because they don't like dogs. Yeah, they can interact and live calmly with dogs, but if you got the aggressive dog, or the bad dogs, the guard dogs, the dobies, and the pitties, and the shepherds and stuff like that are trained to be guard dogs and not so friendly necessarily sometimes, they don't like those kind of dogs, and they'll off them like that because they see them as a danger of pointing out that there's a Sasquatch over there, because they don't want to be found. They don't want to mess. They want to mess with us on their level, on their own terms. We create the terms with these habituation properties. So if you're doing something stupid, shooting guns, because he was asking, well, we're having some friends come over. We're going to usually do some target practice and shoot guns and stuff at night. And I said, well, you may have a reason to pull back on that activity a little bit. You got a newborn baby. You just called me panicked stricken, wanting to know what to do. And this person was sent to me from another group that I'm with, Phantoms and Monsters. I don't know if you've heard of that, but I'm their Sasquatch guy. And so when they have people that are freaked out, depending on what area of the country, I'll get the call, and the other guy that was going to do this couldn't do it physically. He was going to go see them because he was a state away. So he couldn't do it. So I just called and talked him down off the ceiling. And so, but that's how it just kind of works, And so depending on what people are telling me, I said, you got to tell me the truth. If you shot at one, if you have been doing stupid stuff with guns, running into areas you think they live at, and you've got guns and you look like you're up to no good, they're going to pretend like you're up to no good, and they're going to take it into their own hands. They will run you off, and they will do everything they can to run you away, scare you off before they will lay a finger on a human. Because you know what happens when you do that? 500 other humans with guns come looking for the Sasquatch.
Yeah, exactly. Most of the reports I've gotten where it's a bad situation, usually when I talk to the person long enough, it comes out that they've been doing heavy work on their property and clearing a lot of brush, taking down a lot of trees, and the Bigfoot do not like that, and they just start going after the people.
Yeah, they don't like that either. And that's another reason why I'd be banging on the house. Is number one, I want the food you've been feeding me. Do not get into the habit of feeding them the good, juicy human food that we love and they can't get. I'm talking about roasted chicken, peanut butter, candy bars. If you feed them every now and then, that's fine because you're sharing. But do it like with a bag of apples, or some peanut butter, something that's still human food, but something they don't get in the wild. Now they do get it from humans, because I have a lady out in the West Coast who has plums and pears, and they came one day and stripped the entire tree from the middle all the way to the top. Half of their summer's growth was gone overnight. Not one piece of fruit was on the ground anywhere. They didn't just fall off. They came at night and took everything they wanted. And so what did she do? She gave them a piece of her mind. Don't you ever do that. That's how we feed our family. That's how we eat. This is our food. If you want to take the top quarter of the tree, take it, and you leave the rest for us, because this is how we feed our family. And it works. They quit taking as much. They take only as much as you say you'll allow. You just tell them what you will and will not put up with. They understand that. People, as a rule, don't understand that. They don't believe it. What, you're talking to an ape, a wild animal that understands you? You quit eating my food? Yeah, come on, If you're not living this habituation lifestyle, you have no idea what they do and don't understand. And as an apology, I got to show you this because it is awesome. As an apology for taking all their food, I hope I find it. Oh, it's more toward the back. They gave them a rabbit that had the head pulled off. Here we go. Had the head pulled off, washed, and left in a little koi pond kind of thing that they have on their property, where they yeah. That's a headless rabbit. The head is down at the bottom of the page. It's gone. The head's pulled off. They just pop the heads off and eat the rabbits. So they just pull the fur off and pull the head off. That's how they eat, a lot of, like possum and raccoons. They just pull the head off and they're instantly dead and, done. So they gave them this rabbit as an apology. And it was right next to the tree. And they have this little fountain, the little koi pond thing, like you buy at Lowe's or Home Depot. It's just a real small thing, but they do it to have water running, fresh water out there for the animals and stuff. So they gave them that rabbit. It was left, and it was obvious that it was like, we're sorry. This is an apology. The next day after that, in that koi pond, a 6-inch perch was in there swimming around. Well, there's nowhere that perch could have come from. A half a mile away is a pond, and they back up to this tremendous forest, and the perch probably came from that pond. Well, her husband, who at the time was a non-believer, said, well, it's probably one of the herons flying over, and it dropped a perch from its beak, and it just happened to land in the koi pond. Yeah, even you don't believe that, dude. Come on. I mean, these herons flying 100 feet over, and it just happens to plop. That was a specific act to apologize, and they never have taken more than they agreed to, more than they were told they could take. And that's happened to several of my properties where, go ahead, Jeremiah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. There is, have you ever gotten it where they'll throw an animal head, or leave an animal head by itself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Deer heads, frogs, turtles, deer. The deer they leave, and the way they kill a deer quickly is they run it down. There's usually 2 Sasquatch, one waiting for it and the other one's chasing it, and it's chasing it in a certain direction. But if it's just a solo kill, they will run up behind the deer, break their back legs so they're immobilized, grab their neck, pull it all the way back, break the neck, it's over, they're dead. Dinner is served. And what they will do is they go for the high protein stuff. So they'll slice open with their fingernail or a sharp rock, they'll slice open the gut, the belly of the deer, and pull out the intestines, the kidney, liver, heart, lungs, all the high proteins, the real high protein stuff. There's not as much protein in a piece of meat as there is in those other organs. And so they will leave that carcass, but they'll leave the head, and they've left heads and back legs. People have been gifted deer legs. I can't tell you how many times they've been, there's just a deer leg in their backyard or on a park bench or on a picnic table. I mean, what animal just walks by and accidentally plops a deer leg on your picnic table? I mean, it's a gifting. They do that. I mean, it's a common occurrence with many of these families. And so that's their way, that's their barter, rocks. They love stacking rocks. They love gifting mice and, plants, animal skulls. They'll come and leave. There's a family in Mississippi. They left them 2 skulls. Well, there's a husband and a wife. 2 skulls, 2 people. It's signifying that I know there's 2 of you. Here's a present for you and a present for your hubby. And most of the time, it's the women interacting with the Sasquatch. The fairer sex is interacting with them before the husband comes in, because the husband is more like, I'm at work all day. You see these things. I don't know if I believe you or not. You're probably just freaked out because I'm gone all day and you're home alone, poor little woman home by yourself, which is, kind of insulting. But the women are interacting while the hubby is off at work. I have several of my habituation witnesses where they are calling the wife by her name in her husband's voice while they're out working in the yard. Wife picks up the phone. Randy, where are you at? What are you doing calling me? I mean, are you here? You're supposed to be at work. I just heard you call my name. What are you doing? Are you messing with me? No, honey, what do you mean? I am at work. What are you talking about? And that's when they discover that these guys and gals can imitate the human voice, speak to you in your exact tone of voice. And they call the wife, one of them calls the wife by her husband's honeydew nickname for her. You call your wife honey or baby, or her name's Beverly, you call her Bev or whatever. They'll call him their nicknames or their honey love names, like Sin Sin, because her name's Cindy. Sin Sin, Sin Sin, and she's looking around for her husband. It's his voice. This one woman here who's home alone while her husband works, she's the being that is calling her by her name, Sin Sin. It's a female Sasquatch. She's made friends with this female Sasquatch. So, and I can't see if you've got any people on your podcast looking or asking questions or anything like that, because I have the full screen up here. But I mean, people are eye rolling, or they're going, yes, that's what happened. That's what I'm here. You only get 2 reactions. Oh, this guy's smoking some good stuff, or that's what happens at our house. You know what I mean?
So if I was talking to someone in a certain state and they were talking like that, sometimes people would say that would be skinwalker activity. Is that anything like, have you thought down that line?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
The pale whites, skinwalkers, Dogman, Mothman, we don't get a lot of that here in Missouri. You get a lot of the pale whites and skinwalkers more in the Ohio, New York, Adirondacks, Illinois, Chicago, that area. That seems to be a breeding ground for them. But, I have only taken 3 Dogman reports in my entire 12-year career.
Oh, wow.
And they've just started here in Missouri in the last year and a half. And the Dogman reports I got were in conjunction with a Sasquatch sighting. So one guy saw a Sasquatch, and they freaked him and his girlfriend out as they were hauling ass back to their car at like 2 a.m. They see a Dogman. So, and he described him with the backwards legs. He said it was just like that Brendan Fraser movie, The Mummy. It was the backward legs, and it looked like ISIS. It looked like that mummy. It looked like him, but it had backward legs. I mean, and I have another witness who's seen them on his property with the backward legs. So sometimes you might be getting a Sasquatch report when it's really a Dogman. You might be getting a Dogman report when it's really a Sasquatch. Sometimes, and many, many times, it's reported they hunt together.
Yeah, that was actually a question I was going to bring up, is if you've found yourself getting into situations where the two, we'll say Bigfoot, Dogman, if they seem to be in the same area interacting.
Yeah.
It sounds like, yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of people have said the same thing. And this guy that just called me, I was telling you about, had him pounding on his house. He saw a Sasquatch, and he swears, and I haven't looked at all the photos. I've just now got my internet back up because they're putting in Google Fiber in my neighborhood. So my internet's been kind of sketchy because Spectrum doesn't like that. And so suddenly my internet's been really, really good and really, really bad all of a sudden. But anyway, he swore that he saw a Sasquatch with a dog or Dogman draped over its shoulder. It was like its head was like right here, and its paw was like around his neck, like it was draped over his neck, but from the back. Now, I haven't played with that photo yet. It's dark. It's one of those, he physically saw it, but the picture he took of it isn't all that great. And that happens a lot. Trust me. I've got a classic example of a photo that could have been taken and wasn't. It was a professional photographer hired by a big magazine to go photograph. But anyway, there's more to talk about than that. But there's reasons why we don't get good pictures. So, but do they hunt in pairs? I think Sasquatch and coyotes have a symbiotic relationship. You hear the coyotes, and they start barking and back and forth at their little packs when they make a kill, and so they come running. Well, the Sasquatch come running when they do that too, because you've got a kill and you've taken down like a big cat or a wild hog or something. Well, Sasquatch is going to go over there and take your food. Well, the coyotes cannibalize the Sasquatch food. Well, they'll come over and they'll take whatever's left over of the deer. And usually the Sasquatch will make a call or let somebody know at home, hey, I'm bringing home Taco Bell. I'm coming home with food. And the coyotes know the call. And so when that area is cleared out, the coyotes go find the deer, and they do find it, and they eat up. Because, the Sasquatch really take the legs and the gut piles, and they really just leave the rest because that's all they really need. And they take it back to feed the family. Every now and then you'll see a report of a Sasquatch, with a deer over its neck, carrying it off. The footprint, this footprint right there, that property. That guy, his daughter, who at the time was like 13, they had they live on like 20 some odd acres. They got a great big lake on their property, and they have a lot of feral cats because they're a horse property, and they board horses. And yes, the horses have had their tails braided at night in a locked barn. So we'll go into that another time. Right. But anyway, so that stuff happens. When you're on a property. But she went out, and her gig was they had all these milk crates or something on the outside of the barn, and they were nailed to the side of the barn. This is where all the cats stayed. They had like hay and somewhat of a cover to keep the rain out, but that's where all the feral cats stayed. Well, her gig was to go out there, and it was this horrible storm was coming in, thunder and lightning, and it was coming in. It was going to be really bad. She went out there to put the tarp down, and there was a Sasquatch standing by the apple tree, lightning behind it. It was like a horror movie, just perfect. Lightning behind it, and it had a deer draped over its neck and shoulders, and it was backlit by the lightning. And she's like, she sees it, you know, and I still know these people, you know, like I say, they've divorced and moved on, but I still know the wife really well and her daughters. They're the ones that were primarily dealing with the Sasquatch on the property, as it is with most properties. The women seem to be making the contact because the guys either don't believe it or they're just not around. So anyway, but so what do you and I know these kids, you know, and they've seen them on their property 2 or 3 other times, you know. People are go out there and ride their horses and they say, weren't there some bushes over there? There's bushes that were moving. Well, it's not bushes, it's Sasquatch just standing there. And they can just stand perfectly still and you don't see any movement. It looks like from, you know, a half mile away or a mile away, it looks like a tree or a stump. It looks like nothing alive. And then suddenly you start riding your horse toward it and it's gone. You're using it for, you know, a guide. I'm going to ride to that horse. I'm going to ride to that stump or that bush. Well, where's the bush? It was there a minute ago. It was right next to that other tree. Where'd it go? But they're all turned around. They're on, you know, they're on property that's not there, so they could have been mistaken. But many people said, y'all do a lot of cutting on this property. You got bushes that are here and there and gone and move around. And I'm just really confused, you know. But these people live these lives, and the people that you're living right next door to maybe living the same life. Here's one that'll get you. Put that
is, it's a little hard for me to read. Sorry, but
well, don't read. Just look.
That looks like a face print. Yeah. Wow. Is that on glass or? No.
I'll show you because it's and this is the most recent.
Oh yeah.
Okay. This is another family that grows their food, and they sell most of their food at farmers markets in a specific state. And they put up these big, you know, Quonset hut, you know, the arched, you know, like the military buildings or Quonset huts as they call them, they're arched. And they put that heavy duty plastic over these, you know, the metal bars, and they stretch it tight over that. And that's their greenhouse. And then in the winter, there's 2 of them side by side, and they'll have a propane heater between the 2 greenhouses, and there's a pipe going into each one, and that keeps the food warm in the winter, in the freezing winter, when you know it gets to in the 13 below down here in Missouri in some areas. So this Sasquatch. See that door, and you see the guy. This is the witness's hand. That's his handprint on the Sasquatch print that's up above the door.
Wow.
You see it there, and you see it there. It is 11.5 inches from the base of his palm to the tip of his finger, middle finger, and that is all condensation. So what it is that the Sasquatch, they know they have them on the property. They see them all the time. They're watching them. They'll watch what they're doing. They'll peek behind a tree, and they'll peek out behind and watch them working in the yard, feeding the animals, you know, watering the crops, whatever. They watch them do their daily life. They see them all the time, and they hear them, and so they know they're there. But they didn't put 2 and 2 together that they were the ones somebody was getting in and stealing their food and eating it on the spot. And so he figured out that first thing he did was put a door, because this door was not on that Quonset hut. It was not there. Well, somebody kept going in and out and taking the food. So they put the door on there and locked it. Well, they could still crawl in where those pipes went in from the propane heater. So they were getting in that way. Well, he put that door on, and he put motion lights on. One night, 11:30, this was about a year ago, 1.5 years, The alarm goes off, the lights are on, and he hears noise and rustling, and it's about 35, 40 yards from his house, their house, to the greenhouse. He goes out the front door. All he has is his phone for his flashlight. He's running out there, and he hears howls and screaming coming from one side of the forest. As he gets closer to the greenhouse, he hears howls and screaming coming from the other side of the forest, but on both sides of the greenhouse. As he gets to the greenhouse, this is a killer story, he hears screaming coming from inside the greenhouse. That is a juvenile who caught his butt. He got caught in there, and he was going, ah! He was screaming. He runs in the door. This Sasquatch runs out the door. They brush up against each other. He's telling us, we could have kissed. And this kid's like 21. And so he's going, it just brushed up again. It ran by me. It didn't even acknowledge. It just, as soon as I opened the door, it ran by him. Because there's no door handle on the inside, just the outside. There's just a handle, but not a doorknob that, takes the thingy out of the, whatever you call it, the door.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so it ran right by him. They touched.
Man.
And, they called me, and this family, I've known now their grandfather, who I knew, had 3 Class A reports with me filed with BFRO. I've known him, and I met the rest of his family. When they called me, I met 9 members of his dispersed family. So it was an uncle and 2 brothers of the guy that I knew that had the report. These people are Sasquatch magnets. They wherever they go, they're there. I mean, some people attract them. And some of the reports I took from him when I first met him were just bone chilling. Sasquatch banging on a camper. They had hung up a hog and a deer. They gutted them and were letting them bleed out before they cut them up. And they were banging on their camper that they were in the woods, which later became my research area, which is the same area I saw my Sasquatch disappear when I led my first expedition. That became my research area. These people eat, sleep, and drink Sasquatch. I met the uncles. They've all had encounters. I go to meet them, and I meet 9 people, 3 different families of the same named family. They live within a mile of each other in this one little town. And they came over. They heard I was coming over. I brought some books for them. They were pulling out cell phones and videos and showing me, oh, look at this picture I got. Everybody in the family had pictures of Sasquatch or structures or footprints or whatever. They all had them. They eat, sleep, and drink. I mean, it's a way of life for them. They don't know anything else. It's not even that big a deal.
So have you found that, I mean, you've talked to a lot of people in situations like this. Have you found that these types of people, they always have something similar, a recurring thread, or it's just they're in the right place for these Bigfoot to be?
I say they're in the right place.
Okay.
Now, they are the quintessential kind of people that Sasquatch love. They do not hunt recklessly. They don't hunt just to get a rack and leave the deer laying there in a ditch next to the highway.
Mm-hmm.
They hunt to feed their families. Every scrap of every deer, whether it's bow or bullet, they use to feed their family. They fill up their freezers and they eat deer, venison, cattle, hog, whatever they eat. They kill to feed their family. I mean, that's So these people are interacting with them because they're living the kind of life, they're raising fruits and vegetables. They're feeding their family. They're taking care of the earth. They're the kind of people that the Sasquatch would be attracted to. And so this is going on, and they start belching forth all these encounters, and I've been with them. I've gone fishing with them at night and had rocks thrown at us and splashing in the water. Well, it's not fish jumping. Some of these rocks are huge, and they're throwing at us because we're taking the fish that they want. They fish certain areas. Well, the Sasquatch fish too. They just grab them with their bare hands. They're fast. They just grab them out of the water. So these people are just the perfect Sasquatch friends or family, however you want to call it. It sounds ridiculous, but I mean, they know them. They know these people. They show themselves, and they're not afraid of them. Tommy, who just passed away, was one of the patriarchs of the family, and he was a replacement minister. What he did was he would go to these small country churches and be the replacement minister until they got someone that wanted the job, because a lot of them were in the boonies, like way out in the middle of nowhere. These little small churches where you've got 25 people in there, and that's your entire congregation. But that's what he did, and he hunted to feed his family. He had a Sasquatch just look up at him when he was in his blind, his stand up in a tree about 20 feet up. It just looked at him. And they stared at each other for, 5-6 minutes. And it just walked off and walked on like, you're not going to shoot me. I know you're not going to hurt me. We just had a stare down, and he walked off. I got a lot of stories like that too. And a lot of them will say, if I was the type of person to shoot a Sasquatch, I couldn't do it because it looked too human.
Yeah, I hear that all the time. Yep.
I could not do it. I had it in my sight.
Mm-hmm.
I could have shot it in the eye.
Yeah.
And I could not do it because they looked too human. You've heard that.
Oh, I've heard it at least half a dozen times. It's wild. Yeah.
I've heard it hundreds of times, but I'm knee deep in this stuff. So am I making this up? Oh, wait, you've heard it too. So you must be making it up. Oh, maybe we're both telling the truth, and these are really truthful people coming and tell us their stories. How about that? Right. There's another version. There's actually, this is really happening.
Exactly.
Instead of the denial. Oh, you're full of crap, Now, a great example, this cover. That's my third book. Look at that.
That's wild.
Look, can you read the timestamp on the top picture?
No, I definitely.
Are you as blind as I am?
I really am. It's very small. Camera 1.
Yes, it says 15:12:36.
Okay.
That's 3:12 and 36 seconds. You know what the bottom timestamp is? 3:12 and 40 seconds. This Sasquatch tripped this camera that this guy tripped 4 seconds after he walked by it. Fake, fake, fake. That's fake. How dare you publish that? Well, you just called it fake. You don't even know the backstory. You don't know anything about it. This guy's a preacher, and I've been to the property twice. We actually filmed a Sasquatch video for Hulu, and the creative differences between the producer and the directors were so bad, it's never going to see the light of day.
Are you kidding?
Yeah. No. It was stupid. It was ridiculous. Yeah. So 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. He never saw it. He never heard it. He never sensed it. But they've seen them on the property. This thing was so close to the camera, it bumped the camera. It's hard to show you, but if you see the picture of the preacher, because this is preacher man, it's preacher van, he's checking the cameras. They have about 30 some odd cameras out there. So they have them all in threes. So a camera is pointing to another camera that's pointing to another camera. So they're all taking pictures of each other so they don't miss anything, for hunting purposes, for deer and stuff. So he was just out checking the cameras, changing the cards and changing the batteries. And they do that about every couple of months. And they go in and look at all the cards and see if there's anything good on there. And if not, they just erase them, put them back in the cameras for the next time, And so if you see in the back, you see that tree that's horizontal, it's on the ground behind him. You see the tree standing straight up here. You see the shadow right here. Now, with a hand photo, you see the shadow here is not quite as pronounced. These trees up here look like they're moving. They're blowing in the wind because they're straight up and down in that top picture. The reason that it looks like they're moving is because the camera got bumped. I think this creature being materialized and was like on top of the camera and bumped it just slightly. I do believe, and he has seen other things on the property, Sasquatch and other things as well, right, that would lend itself to some spiritual, quantum, paranormal type stuff. Not dumb ape, by no stretch of the imagination. So when I put this book out, people are going, "Oh, you're full of crap. It's a fake. It's a fake photo. How dare you do that?" Well, it's not fake. It's and here's how I know it's not fake. Number one, I've done what little technological work I can do. But when I first heard about the property, and I was gonna go visit them, and I had already been to visit them once, and I got a call from a friend of mine, a fellow researcher in Florida. A film group had been filming him, and they saw one of my reports in this other state, and they wanted to go film this other habituation property I had. Well, I called my people, and they said, "Well, we'd like to maybe get some money and some clothes, maybe some camping gear. Maybe we want to kind of be paid for them coming out here and go. You guys, that's not how it works. They read my report that was in one of my other books, which was a published BFRO report, and they wanted to come out and film those people. Well, they were going, "Nah, we would like to get some money or something. We've had some other people call us, and we want stuff." I said, "Well, that ain't gonna happen." So I called my guy back, and I had just got a hold of these people. They had gotten a hold of me actually, and said, "Hey, Stacy, I've got a photo here. I'm going to send this to you. These people are open for you coming out. I want you to tell me. You take it to your technical guys. I want you to tell me if this is faked, hoaxed. I want you to tell me if this photo." Now you can take Google Lens, and you can take a picture of something, and it will show you samples. If you've got a picture of something that already exists, they will show you. This never came up. Their technical guys looked at it and said, "We're on our way. we're coming out because that is freaking awesome." So they came out and we filmed. But everybody, when I put that on the book, and I took care of it myself. I mean, you just got to tell people, you got to be mean to some people sometimes, because the haters and trolls, everybody in the Sasquatch world, and you probably know this, everybody wants to be the one. Everybody wants to be the Patterson Gimlin of the
I'm starting to know this.
Oh, let me, I can tell you some nasty embarrassment. And when I put this out, that's fake. That's fake. You're full of baloney. And all people started jumping on that bandwagon. "Oh, that's just baloney. That didn't, look at those fingers. Those aren't real." I mean, and they went to town on me. And I gave it all back to them. I ripped some butt. I was furious because you're making an assessment based on a photo with no backstory. Because all I did was publish. This is my new book coming out. Now I've got some backstory here. I'll tell you about this. I just put the cover on the Facebook. And before there's any backstory, people are already trashing me. You're a piece of crap. You're no good. I don't care who you think you are. Well, all that kind of crap. So, but everybody wants to be somebody. Everybody wants to be the one to come up with the body or the piece of evidence that makes Patterson-Gimlin look like a turd in the toilet, you know.
Right.
Everybody wants, and it's cutthroat.
It is.
You know? It's nasty. It's hateful and nasty, you know. And but we know those in the paranormal open-minded camp know that having an open mind about this kind of stuff answers a whole lot more questions than the dumb ape theory. It's just a dumb ape. We'll discover them. We'll get a body one day. Oh, no, you won't. The government has bodies. They know where they are. They know what they are and where they are. They don't want to deal with it right now. Because, you know, it's the whole thing. If it was just a dumb ape, why the secrecy?
Right. Exactly.
Why do you not want to admit, like, okay, even if it is a dumb ape, why don't you want to admit there's a dumb ape running amok in the forests of North America that has not been categorized yet? Why don't you just want to say that and get it over with? Well, that would be too easy. Well, it's because there's something else. There's something they don't want you to know, you know, that they have skills that are way beyond ours and anything you've been told or seen.
Yeah, it's definitely something that would change a few narratives that they don't want to have changed.
Yeah. And I'll go to my grave believing that, because, you know, the things I've seen and the people that are my habituation folks, they're each sleeping and drinking this stuff daily.
Right.
And it's the real stuff, you know. I was going to tell you about all these other great, you know, one of my best, but we don't have time here. It's almost 10 o'clock.
The time is so rapidly. There's a few questions I really want to get in.
Well, go ahead. Let's do that.
We'll just go in real quick.
You ask me questions, I'll stop talking.
Carter, I can talk to you for hours. You got really good stuff. Because there's stuff we haven't even broached yet, but there is a question I really want to make sure that I ask. It's from Anne Marie in the Patreon. So she says, I'm curious if Carter experienced any mental telepathy or visions of other things when he was growing up before he started to research Bigfoot. Have abilities always been with him like that?
No, but okay. Yes. As a child, at the age of 10, I already knew that there was something else in the world. I didn't know how I knew. I just knew that, you know, I got a map of the universe, of our solar system, and a box of cereal. Back then, you could take a couple of box tops, Kellogg's flakes, and send it in. You get a map. I'll put this map on my wall. It showed all the planets, but there's no stars. I go, where's all the stars? And I knew there were stars. I just knew at an age, a very early age, there was something else going on. And if I told you what that was, that goes down a whole other rabbit hole, but I will tell you because it does explain things. But when I was 7 or 8, I was abducted. I did not find out until I was 53, which was 20 years ago. I'm 72 now. I'll be 73 here in a few months. I found out quite by accident. I had no idea that I had been abducted and taken aboard a craft with my friend, 2 friends, possibly. 2 friends, you know, 1 friend and myself, and then myself and the different friend, but we all lived in the same neighborhood. I can't tell you how many times I've been taken because I'm still trying to piece that together. But I've been regressed hypnotically 7 times by 4 different regressionists. I don't know. You ever heard of Dolores Cannon? No, you
Very
probably have.
vaguely. Not
Yeah,
really, though.
look
Yeah.
her up, Dolores Cannon.
Okay.
Anyway, she's the cream of the crop. She is the Bud Hopkins and John Mack of abductions.
Mm.
If you don't know who those people are, you'll look them up too. But anyway, yes, I've had mental telepathy. One of the stories I was going to tell you was the mental telepathy story of my research area down in Missouri, where I saw that one. I took my wife there 7, 8 years ago, just to show her, because we share the same office here, and so she come in and she'll go, I see, nice. You got a little hobby, honey. You got a little hobby to take,
Right.
She's messing with me. She's not being patronizing. She's messing because she knows I eat, sleep, and drink this, and it's a real thing. So I'm going to take you to my research area. And that story is classic. And I had visions put in my head of something that could not be, yet I was seeing it. And she was there watching me have a semi meltdown. And she was freaking out because she thought I was pranking her. And she was scared to death of my area. Because you know how if you go out, the hair on the back of your neck will stand up when you get the heebie-jeebies. You're in the presence of something. If you're in the woods or in a haunted house or something, you're in the presence of something. Well, she was getting that. And I said, well, that's because we're in their living room. They live here. So, I'm feeling what you're feeling, but I understand what it is. No. We're going back. I believe you. Let's go back. And I said, no. We're just, anyway, I'll have to tell that story another time because there's zero time for
Absolutely.
that. But it is, and I'd love to come back, but it was, yes, to answer that question.
Definitely. I think definitely want to have a second chat sometime in the future. My last question. So if you look at your BFRO resume that's in your reports, it mentions you've been on a lot of expeditions, and it also mentions that you've been at least in one up in Iowa.
Yeah,
that's where I'm from.
That's where you live.
Exactly. So my question is, have you experienced anything weird related to Bigfoot in Iowa?
Yeah. And I'm trying to think. In the lower part of Iowa, off to the east,
Southeast. Yep.
There's a big river down there, Yellow River or.
Well, so yeah, Yellow River, I believe, is in the northeast. You've got Yellow River State Forest, and Backbone is up there too, and Volga River.
Volga.
By Fayette.
Yeah, no, I've been hit by infrasound twice.
Oh wow!
There, where I could not get out of my sleeping bag. I had to pee, and it was about 5:30. I heard something big, massive, walking by my tent. Boom, 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 and I'm going, oh God, that's a Sasquatch. He's right out there. I got to get out. I couldn't move. I could not move my arm. I could not make anything move. My legs, my body. I was frozen until it walked by my tent, and then I could get up. And I got up and got out of my tent, and my partner was camped in his tent, 25 yards away, and he had got up because he heard it, and it walked from where I was toward his tent. Where it went, I don't know. But we both heard it, and we both could not get out of our sleeping bag. We couldn't unzip. We couldn't move because it would not let us. It knew we were there. Zapping, the term, is being hit by infrasound, where you just cannot move. And I've had mental telepathy. I've had visions put in my head, both pleasant and meant to be deceptive. And I've experienced that. And so, yes, I can tell you some really good tales about that, And, I have the luxury of being, I'm a real estate agent. I work out of my house.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So I I can come and go and do whatever. I've been doing it 26 years. I'm about at the end of my career. I'm going to be licensed 2 more years, and I'm doing as little as I can because I'm more interested in this, but I mean, and real estate's changing anyway. But I've been frozen where I couldn't move. I've seen a guy knocked to the ground with infrasound. Wow. You just heard this little gust of wind, and all of a sudden he's and he just keels over. He's on the ground riding it at night. We're all shining flashlight. Hey, what the hell's wrong? He's, I can't move. He was just, he wasn't stroking out. He got zapped.
Yeah.
And so that's a thing. That's a real thing, And this stuff it's real. Everything I've told you is real. It's the truth. I don't BS. I don't deal with anybody who has BS. I've had several people try to, run one by me, and good luck with that, But I'd love to come and give you 2 spiritually motivating and uplifting experiences that I had that told me I'm on the right track. And yes, these beings have skills far beyond a dumb ape swinging from tree to tree in a Tarzan movie. It's so far off from that. It's not even funny.
We will definitely need to set that up. Carter, in the last few minutes that we have, can you take a few minutes to just to remind people how to get the books that you've written, how to contact you? I'm sure there'll be a few people that will want to contact you about things that they may have going on, things of that nature.
Sure. My web site is sqexplorer.com. Pretty clever, huh? Sasquatch Explorer. Yeah.
That's nice.
And my email is sqexplorer@gmail.com. So you can order the books off my website. If you buy 2 or more, I'll give you a break on the price for sure. And if you buy 4, I'll give you breaks on the prices. I can sell them for cost a little bit. I'm not making any money on these books. What I'm trying to do is get the word out, get more people to tell their stories. Then somebody reads that book and that story, and they go, "That's happened to Uncle Bob. I remember that." He used to tell. That's all I'm trying to do is get the word out that these actual events and habituations where they're living on the property, sharing the property with these people is happening, and nobody can grasp it. Some people can, but it's a bit to swallow. So but if you email me, if you call me, if you've got something going on, all the people in my books, all the names are false, all the locations are false, because nobody wants to have
wow.
Well, do you want to have somebody drive by your house with a gun? Hey, there's a $5 million bounty on a Sasquatch body. So
that makes
sense. Doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter where they are. It matters what's happening.
Yeah.
And do you recognize these signs as something that might be happening on your property? Because that's the only reason people talk to me, because I promise them no one's going to know who you are or where you are. I use fake names. I use fake states or nothing at all, because it doesn't matter. It's what's going on is what matters, And so that's the only falsification, but that's for their protection. Nobody gets any money. They get a free book. Nobody's getting anything out of this other than the joy and pleasure of getting it off their chest.
Yep. Makes sense.
That's it, And so I promise them that no one will know who you are or where you are. And there's been a couple of times where somebody with very bad intent has tried to find out some information. And we put
absolutely.
We put a stop to that,
Yep.
And it's still, the person is still doing this. He's still trying to get on people's property, trying to find out where they're at.
Oh my goodness.
He's up to no good. He's a sleazeball.
Wow.
Anyway, so
Carter,
Jeremiah, this has been good. It's
been fun, dude. Oh man. I feel like I could talk to you for way longer, but I'm so excited we got this to work out tonight, and we are going to set up a part 2 for sure. So I'll be in touch. And thank you so much for coming on, Carter.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.